Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Cassidy and today I wanted to do my quarterly wrap up for the second quarter of the year. So if you missed my wrap up for the first quarter of the year, which was January through March, I will leave a link to it up above so you can go check that out to check out all the books that I read during those few months. But today I'm going to talk about the books that I read between April and June. So I have, let's see, I think 16 books to go through. I think I've read a total so far this year of 34 books, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 35. Math. Did I do that correctly? I don't really know. But I read 19 in the first quarter and I think I have 16 here. But let's jump into the video. The first book I ended up finishing during this quarter was Witches of Ash and Ruin by E. Latimer. This book I gave 4 out of 5 stars. It is a young adult fantasy novel with a female-female romance in it, and it is just spectacular. I really loved the characters in this book, and I loved the action, and I just thought it was very original for what it is, and I just really enjoyed it. I actually want to make a video about like my favorite books with witches in it, and this would be one of them because it is very good. It has really good representation, the action is great, and I love like the little touch of mystery in it, and I really can't wait for the next book. The next book I ended up reading was Paper Princess by Erin. This is a book that I featured in one of my previous reading vlogs, so if you wanted to check that out, I will leave the link up above as well. So this is a young adult, or new adult rather, book. I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5 stars. On Goodreads, I did bump it up to a 4-star read because it was pretty entertaining. The thing about books like this is it's probably not the best written thing in the world, just like this one wasn't, but it really grabbed my attention, and I read it in practically a day. It was super fast-paced, and of course there's drama in it, there's unnecessary circumstances, sometimes unrealistic in a sense, but it was just like wacky and fun and just a good time. It follows a girl named Elle who has lost both of her parents when suddenly a man shows up and says that he was the best friend of her father and wants to basically take her in and take care of her, and it turns out he's like this really rich guy and he has a bunch of sons, and of course you know how that goes with a bunch of sons in the house and the one girl. But yeah, it was just fun, entertaining, a really good time. Would I recommend it to everybody? No, but if you're looking for a fast-paced, fun new adult novel, then this one might be for you. I still need to read the second one, which is Broken Prince. I'm looking at my shelf right now, but I am looking forward to it because it was a really good time. The next book I ended up reading was House of Dragons by Jessica Cluess. This is a young adult fantasy book that I read for that same reading vlog, I believe, that I read Paper Princess for. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. This book follows 5 main characters. It alternates their points of views, and it's basically a dragon race. There's a lot of trials that these 5 characters go through. They're trying to aim for the throne. They were chosen to take part in this competition, and the winner will become the king or queen of this kingdom. It was entertaining. It was a lot of fun to read. I didn't really connect with the characters though, and I think that the writing could have been a little bit better. There were parts that I really wanted things to be explored a bit more throughout this book, and I think maybe in the second book those things might be explored, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I do want to check out the rest of the series when it comes out. This one was just okay for me. 3.5 stars is not bad though, so don't get me wrong, it was pretty good, and I think a lot of people will like it more than I did, and it might be geared to people who just, you know, are looking for a fun read, maybe not a lot of grit to it, I guess, and maybe not a lot of substance, but just a lot of fun. Especially if you like multiple POV stories, then you would really enjoy this one. The next book I read was Emergency Planning for a Library of Questionable Legal Status by Katelynne Shimkus. So this is a book that one of my friends, a former co-worker of mine, actually wrote, and I read it for the same readathon that I did for the previous 2 books that I just talked about. So again, I will leave a link to that video. I think there might be 2 of them up above if you wanted to check that reading vlog out. But yes, this book I ended up giving 4 out of 5 stars. It really introduced me to a topic that I was not familiar with and actually knew nothing about. I was unaware of the fact that there are these non-profit libraries that kind of are like bordering on being illegal, and there was one in New York and one in Boston, and at one point, what year was it, 2011, one of the libraries in Park was raided by the NYPD, and then a emergency meeting, hence the title, was held for the one in Boston. Maybe? Yes. So basically it just kind of like was following 2 timelines. Something I did really like about this was the fact that there was like a touch of this like fantasy aspect in it, where somebody seems to have gone back into the past to discuss what was going on with this and maybe warn somebody about what was about to happen. So that was pretty cool, and like I said, it introduced me to a topic that I was just unaware of, and now I'm actually pretty interested in these libraries and parks. So if you're interested in that, I would definitely check out Katelynne's book. I did enjoy this. It was definitely really cool to read a book by one of my friends and former co-worker, so I definitely recommend checking it out. The next one I read was The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This book I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This is a mystery novel that follows this wedding party on an island off the coast of Ireland. This couple is getting married, and they're actually a really well-known couple. The man in it is this really well-known actor, and the woman owns her own business, I think a clothing line or something. She's like a designer, but they're on this island to get married, and somebody ends up being killed. You don't know who is killed in the beginning of the novel. It really just alternates perspectives between some of the wedding guests and the wedding party. Mainly, like, it alternates between the bride and the groomsmen, or rather the best man and the bridesmaid. Everyone whose perspective you see or read from, rather, has something to hide and something that's going on from their past, and they all might just be capable of murder. I was so gripped by this novel. Like, I just wanted to figure out who was the murderer. I wanted to figure out who was murdered as well, because that was not revealed to you until almost like the very, very end of the book. So it was like a mystery within a mystery within a mystery, and it was just like a lot of fun to read. Definitely in the vein of like Agatha Christie. It really reminded me a lot of And Then There Were None. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend this mystery novel, especially because it is super fast paced. So if you're in like a reading slump, I would definitely recommend this one to get you out of it. Maybe I should make a video about some of those suggestions, but yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. And then the next one I read was Furyborn by Claire Legrand. This is a YA fantasy series that took me way too long to read. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I did bump it up to 5 stars because I really was so into this book. I don't know why it took me so long to pick this up, but honestly, it was so worth it. My favorite thing about this is the fact that it's following these 2 very powerful women, but set like years apart from each other. I think I enjoyed Rielle's chapters a bit more than Eliana's. Is that what her name is? Yeah. Rielle and Eliana. I think I enjoyed Rielle's chapters a bit more because it kind of featured a trial that she had to go through, and you could tell that she was training and becoming stronger, and that was really cool to see. She's also the one that kind of turns a bit evil. So it's kind of cool to see how that really developed and what was going on with that. But I did also enjoy Eliana's chapters. It did alternate between the two timelines, so that was really cool. I really enjoyed the characters, and I really enjoyed the men that were in these women's lives. Like, they're pretty perfect. If you have not picked up Furyborn yet, I highly recommend that you do, because it was so good. And I do have Kingsbane, which is the second book, and I really need to get to that one soon because I enjoyed this one so much. And I believe the third one is coming out at the end of this year, so I should probably catch up with the series. Next, I read a book that was out of my comfort zone a little bit. I ended up reading Isaac Storm by Erik Larson. I am reading this for like a surprise video slash vlog that will be coming out hopefully at the end of July. I need to read a couple more books for it though, for me to get that video out there. But anyway, this is a nonfiction book about the deadliest hurricane in US history. It hit the town of Galveston, Texas, and it was in what year? 1900, September 8th, 1900. So what Erik Larson really does best is he is well known for his narrative style of telling these true stories. So everything really flows well and you're not bored. That was one of my fears of reading nonfiction, is I get bored pretty easily when it comes to books. I don't like being given just facts. I want a little story with it. So I like how he kind of wove the facts within these real life stories of people. So he might not know all of the facts, but he uses his best judgment in creating this narrative for what was going on with this. So this one was actually like pretty dark because it is the deadliest storm in US history. And it was dark, but I learned a lot of stuff from it. And it introduced me to an author that I thought I might like, but didn't know for sure. And it is his smallest book, so I am really interested in reading more of his work for sure. And this one, I don't know if I said it or not, but I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book, guys, is not out until next year. It was supposed to be out this year, but it was bumped back till next year, and I can't wait for you guys to read it because honestly, it is so good. And it is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. So this is a young adult fantasy book that, like I said, was supposed to be out this year, and the release date ended up being pushed back. But guys, the wait is going to be worth it because this is a 5-star read. So this book is set in a world where on the 16th birthday, women have to go and get their blood tested. Basically, they need to be cut, and if their blood runs red like normal, then they're fine. They can go, they can get married, they can live their life. But if it runs gold, then they need to be killed, unfortunately. To them, gold means that they are impure. However, what it actually means is that they are near immortal beings. They have these rare gifts and abilities. They are descended from the gods. The Empire decides that instead of killing these women now, they want to recruit them to become a part of their army. However, they don't truly belong. People still look down on them, people still fear them, but our main character makes the choice to become a part of this army, otherwise it would mean her death. So she journeys to the capital to train, and it's about her training and her getting ready for the biggest battle of this life. It is West African inspired, and it is phenomenal. The characters are definitely some of my new favorite characters. I loved this world. I loved the action. I loved the growth of the characters and the main character especially, and her acceptance of who she really is. And it's just, there's so much going on in this book, and it was just so good. And now I have to wait even longer for the second book because the first one isn't even being released until next year. So now I have to wait even longer for the second one. But guys, when it does come out, you absolutely have to pick it up. First of all, the cover is just gorgeous. Can we just talk about that for a second? The cover is gorgeous, and it's also an amazing story. So I highly recommend you pick it up when it comes out. I don't know the exact date now. It was supposed to be May of this year, that didn't happen, but keep your eye out for it because you will not regret it. Next, I read Aurora Burning by J. Kristoff, Amie Kaufman. This is the second book in the, what is it called? Aurora series or something? Aurora Cycle series. This is the second book in it. It is a young adult sci-fi book. I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. Mainly because the ending was just so like, what the hell just happened kind of ending. I love these characters so much. You're introduced to them in the first book, which is Aurora Rising, and you're gonna keep falling in love with them because they're just hilarious. They are everything that you want in life. They're so great, especially our star on the cover here. He is just such a beautiful creature. I just, you know, love him so much. But yeah, everything in this is just splendid. You get the characters from the first book, you get the humor from the first book, you get the action, the adventure, and the little mystery about what's happening, going on, and just Aurora herself is really growing into who she's supposed to be, and that's really cool to see. And then her relationship with this beautiful person is just, you know, wonderful. I just can't wait to read the rest of the books eventually when they come out. Next, I read Winter Garden by Kristin Hannah. So this is another book that I'm reading for that secret video I mentioned earlier, but I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. This is an adult, contemporary, slightly historical fiction novel. It is about these 2 sisters who never really connected with their mother, and now that their father is gone, his dying wish was for them to hear their mother's story and understand what happened in her past to make the mother who she was. The story switches between Leningrad in 1941 and the present time, which is 2000. It switches between those 2 timelines as the mother is telling her story. You're also like actually reading that story and kind of grasping it, and then in the 2000s you are hearing what's happening with the daughters and how their lives are going and how their mother's affection or lack thereof has affected them throughout their life. This book had me in absolute tears by the end of it. I was bawling my eyes out. My like boyfriend was sitting on the couch over there and just watching me in this chair just crying and just bawling, and it was just very, very emotional, and the ending was very, very good. It was so satisfying. I definitely recommend you pick it up because Kristin Hannah just has a way with words and a way of telling the story. Next, I ended up reading City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This is an adult fantasy book, the first book in a series. Took me way too long to read this book. Finally, when I picked it up, I absolutely flew through it. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. This follows a young woman named Nari, who is a con artist in 18th century Cairo. She has these miraculous healing abilities where she can heal herself as well as others, but yet she does not believe in magic. That is until one day she summons a Jinn warrior named Dara, and guys, Dara is like the love of my life. And if my boyfriend heard me say that, he'd be really upset with me. But Dara, I loved him. Yes, there were parts where he was a little bit of a jerk in this, but I think it's gonna go really well. I don't know. I can't make any guesses as to where the series is going to go, but there's a lot of action in this. There's definitely a lot of political intrigue, so if you like that kind of thing, I definitely recommend picking it up. It also has this like journey in the beginning where Dara is taking Nari to the City of Brass, which is where the rest of the Jinn people are. I just loved the magic in this, and I love the characters. The thing that really, really sells this book is honestly the characters. So if you like character-driven stories with a lot of political intrigue and magic, then this might be the book for you. I will be starting the second one very, very soon because I did get an arc of the third book, which by the time this comes up will probably already be out. So kind of failed on that part, but I will be reading them both very, very soon because this book was phenomenal. Next, I ended up reading Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. This is a young adult fantasy novel that is set in present-day Seoul, Korea. It follows a gumiho, which is a nine-tailed fox spirit named Mian. And it also follows this boy who ends up falling in love with her named Ji-hoon. This book I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy the storyline. It really reminded me a lot of a K-drama. It just flowed that way with a lot of like the same kind of tropes that you see in K-dramas, and I absolutely adore K-dramas. So reading it in like book form was really, really fun. The only thing about this is I thought it could have been a bit better at some parts, and I kind of didn't really connect to the characters too much, nor did I connect with their relationship, so I just couldn't really get into that side of it too much. I enjoyed it for the very classic K-drama romance scenes in this, but I just didn't really connect to the characters too much, and also the kind of story itself didn't really flow well for me, but I still enjoyed the book overall. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I am curious to see where this series goes, so I will probably pick up the next one. Next, I read We Hunt the Flame by Hafsah Faizal. This is a young adult fantasy as well, and I also gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. This book follows Zafira, who is a young woman that disguises herself as a man to hunt in this magical forest in order to protect and save her people. However, nobody else can go into that forest and get out alive, so she's the only one that can do it, and because of that, she is recruited to go to this like magical island in order to find this object that could save everybody from this ever-encroaching forest that will probably devour the entire world. But yeah, she goes on this journey with a few other characters, one being Nasir, who is this assassin but also happens to be a prince. I really enjoy books with like bands of characters, and we for sure got that in this book. I, however, didn't like the fact that for a majority of the book they were just kind of walking through a desert. That's all they were doing. They got attacked a few times, they easily defended themselves, and then they kept walking. And I don't know, I just thought it was a bit boring. I also hated the insta-love in this. Like, Nasir and Zafira, they barely said 2 words to each other throughout the entire time that they were on this journey, and all of a sudden they were just like, I would die for you. I want to be with you. I'm pining after you. Love me. And I just like, you said like 3 words to each other. But yeah, so I didn't really like that aspect of it. It was still like an enjoyable read, and I might pick up the next book. I'm not that curious about it though. I don't really know for sure or not. If I can get an arc, I'll probably read it, but yeah, I didn't really enjoy this one as much as I hoped I would. Next, I read Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. So, oh my god. This book, 5 out of 5 stars. For sure. So good. It's an adult romance, if you didn't know that already. It is the 2nd book of the, like, Brown sisters, I think it's called, trilogy that's probably going to be out. First book is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I did not actually read that book. You don't have to read them in order to understand what was happening. But anyway, this one, it is hilarious. Like, the two main characters that you get in this, you have Danica Brown, who is this, like, awesome, spunky, like, sarcastic black witch. She's just so funny, and I absolutely loved her. She has pink hair in the beginning. She's fabulous. I love her so much. And then you have Zafir, who's this ex-rugby player who is also just like this giant, like, teddy bear. He is just so adorable. I like was melting throughout this entire book. They are just so cute. You also get this, of course, since it's a romance book, you get the like overly explained and dramatic kind of like sex scenes in this. I actually really enjoy those, so if you don't, then you probably wouldn't be picking this up anyway. But the representation in this, the fact actually Zafir himself has like major anxiety, so that is represented really well in this. And I just I loved it so much. If you are looking for a romance book, or any book rather, that is also laugh out loud funny, then I highly, highly recommend that you pick this one up, because it's great. Second to last book I read was Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a young adult contemporary novel that is entirely written in verse. This is the first time that I've read a book written in verse, and I flew through this. Could have easily read it in a day. I actually could have read it in a matter of like 2 hours, but I was like busy doing things, so I read it in 2 days. It follows two sisters who actually don't know that they're sisters. Their father kind of led this double life. One life is in the Dominican Republic and the other is in New York City. He would spend 4 months with one of his daughters and then the rest of the year with the other one, flying between the two. However, one time when he is flying to his daughter in the Dominican Republic, his plane ends up crashing. There are no survivors, and suddenly these two daughters learn the truth, and they realize that they have this long lost sister that they had no idea about, and it is about the emotional trauma of losing a parent. So trigger warning for that, there is a loss of a parent in here, as well as sexual assault. It is definitely a very moving story. It's also quite sad, but there's a lot of hope in this, and it is just, Elizabeth has a way with words. I flew through this, but it was just like very emotional, just the way that it was written, the words that she used to represent certain things, the way that these girls were feeling about learning the truth. Should they be happy? But also they're kind of sad because they never knew that they had a sister. They're angry because their father kept this from them, but they're also kind of jealous because one of the sisters has more than the other and just had an easier life in general. And then they just like the way they connect eventually, and it just is so very moving. I see why this book is so hyped, because honestly, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. I actually am recommending it to a lot of my coworkers now, so I hope that they can read it very soon, because it was just very, very good. And finally, the last book that I am going to be talking about today is Seasons of the Storm by Elle Cosimano. This is a young adult fantasy book that I think just recently came out. I think it said it came out in June, which I think it actually came out on the 23rd of June, so I read it like right as it was coming out. But this book, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. So this is like the lowest rating I've given a book so far for this whole quarter, and that's because I wasn't really expecting what I got from this book. It follows a young man named Jack and a young woman named Flora, and they are winter and spring personified. They are part of this world where Gaia is real. She gives a dying teenager a choice. They could just either die or they could become a season, and once they do become a season, they end up fighting every year the season that precedes them. So their goal, because every season has to end, their goal is to kill that season that comes before them. And then there's like a game with ranks, and like the sooner you kill them, the higher rank you go, and things like that. So I wasn't really expecting that aspect. I thought it was just really cool, like, oh, you are personified and then you go and you chase the season that came before you kind of thing. I didn't realize that they are then reborn and they wait another full year before their season comes up again and they have to go out again. And the biggest problem that I had with this is honestly the two main characters, Jack and Flora. I was not connected to them or their relationship. You kind of go into this book at a point where they have already kind of become a thing. They are already trying to figure out how they could possibly be together, and possibly start a revolution and not continue to kill each other. But yeah, I just wasn't really connected to the characters. I was connected to 2 of them, and they weren't even the main characters, and didn't get too much about them. I just wasn't really too connected to this. It wasn't what I was expecting too much. I thought it was pretty long-winded too. Like, it jumped around a lot, when it could have been a bit shorter and explained a bit more, I guess. I think she was just trying to fit too much into one book, rather than, you know, have everything explained before. Maybe the first book should have been, how did Jack and Fleur actually meet, like their story leading up to the present of the actual book. And I think the first book would have been better, so this one would have been better if it was the start of their relationship, and then that way the author could have explained things a bit more, because I'm still kind of confused as to everything that's happening. But anyway, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. That doesn't mean that somebody else won't like it. I just didn't really care for it. It was just okay. Alright, everybody. So there you have it. These are all the books that I have read during this past quarter. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Gonna sit like this for now. But yeah, please let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought about them. I would love to know. I think I'm going to start doing monthly wrap-ups again starting in July, since it's technically the next like quarter, I guess. So I think I'm gonna start doing monthly wrap-ups, just so my videos are not super long like this anymore. But we'll see how it goes. If I don't read a lot of books in a month, then I probably won't do that, but we'll see how it goes. But yes, again, comment down below if you've read any of these books and what you thought about them. I would love to know. Please like this video and subscribe if you are already, and I will see you all next time. Bye! Bitch, I got this shit from Tina. I'm a savage.